Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm Bill Leikam. They call me the Fox Guy. And the purpose of the Urban Wildlife Research Project that Greg and I put together way back in 2013 is to document the behavior of the gray fox and restore much of the baylands so that it makes for a healthy place for wildlife to live. A portion of the consulate in San Francisco first got in touch with me by email, and they introduced the idea that Katharina would fly out here to San Francisco and introduce me to a project idea that she wanted us to participate in. I knew nothing more than that. I learned later when we were in Zurich that the whole project actually started here with us because she didn't have anybody else lined up quite yet. She just wanted to know if I was interested in this. And so after lunch, we came out here and I took her through all of the trail cameras that I had set up at that time. And we got out on the channel over on Matadero Creek, and she finally said, well, what's your decision? And I said, I'm so excited about this. Yes, absolutely. That began the whole project. A year and a half's worth of shipping files off that one dedicated camera to Zurich, Switzerland, where they compiled Triggered by Motion.
Start by just introducing yourself and your role in the project.
I'm Katharina Weikel. I work at University Zurich and I'm responsible for exhibitions and transdisciplinary projects. Triggered by Motion, this wildlife pavilion that we see here is one of my dearest projects, I have to admit, in this exhibition, because it's really focusing on wildlife on a global perspective, and we could create this global network of researchers. All continents are involved, so we have like a really global network that is working together on this project.
My name is Laila, and I'm a historian actually. I have prior studied international relations, and so my job basically was to identify people, interesting researchers or interesting research groups that I knew worked with camera traps in their research.
I'm Anke. I study contemporary history, and I'm also working at Triggered by Motion. We asked all the researchers and citizen scientists to fill in a survey, and then we used the information in that survey to write short texts.
I'm Lawrence. I studied biology at the University of Zurich, and computer vision is a field I'm very interested in, and so doing machine learning with some of this footage is kind of we hope to achieve in the long run.
Triggered by Motion is a stunning video installation containing trail camera video data from 21 conservation projects worldwide, collected for an entire year, synchronized, and turned into 20-minute films. As a result, the films in the walk-in pavilion reveal global rhythms alternating between day, night, and the changing seasons.
I'm highly fascinated by this technique to using camera traps to observe wildlife, because it's absolutely not invasive. So you can do a lot of observation without disturbing the animals.
Camera traps allow observation without resorting to invasive means like collars or ear tags, while also avoiding influencing the behavior of the animal populations in question. These cameras generate huge amounts of data that typically has to be classified manually, which is very time-consuming. However, intensive research is currently underway into the methods that deploy machine learning to speed up image evaluation.
It was very much through this project that I discovered all the potentials, because in many of these digitization projects we're replacing like real workers with a machine, and it's also a whole debate about jobs being lost. But here finally people can breathe and get to do more important things, or can focus on actually doing paid work.
Most time consuming is data preparation, where a lot of groups rely on citizen scientists, because just labeling different landmarks for 100,000 images is just too much for a single person, or it just takes too much time.
There's a lot of data that you don't need because, for example, the camera was triggered by a twig or something that moved in the wind. That machine learning can help you discern data that you may use for your research from data that you cannot use. And then also you can train the algorithm to pick up on certain species.
Several projects involved in Triggered by Motion utilize machine learning in their research. In Botswana, for example, Gabrielle Kazi's team identifies African wild dogs based on their fur patterns. In South Korea, Choi Myung-ae and her team are developing an algorithm that categorizes and counts cranes by species. The IBEX project in Italy's Gran Paradiso National Park is fine-tuning an AI system that can recognize individual ibex within a population, as is Dominic Moringa's team in Kenya through the use of the Lion Identification Network of Collaborators, or LINC.
There are a couple of projects that try to identify species, and then there are projects that try to identify individual animals. And so the dream would be combining those two in one single program, one single algorithm that can identify not only species but then also individual animals.
For example, there is one researcher, she works in South Korea, and they're researching cranes there. And there are two different kinds of cranes, and the AI that they are developing currently will be able to tell the cranes by species and then to count them by species. And these are things that humans cannot possibly do because it's just way too much.
So you say the potential for this kind of technology for you is giving people the opportunity to not have to put so much time into maintaining cameras and stuff. So,
and not investing so much time in analyzing the footage, because I think that's just hours and hours and hours, and
did you have to go through any of this footage yourself?
Yes.
Hours and hours
hours
and
hours and hours. Yes.
It's not as easy as just implementing an AI program. You actually have to put hours into teaching the program what exactly you want.
Yeah. So the teaching this is what takes the most time and the most computational power, is the teaching. But before teaching, you also need to arrange the data and think about the data. So it's good, for example, to have as normalized data as possible.
Using LINC, sample images of particular lions are first input into the computer. This is painstaking manual work which requires researchers to photograph individual lions from various angles, give each animal a number, and annotate each photo accordingly. These sample images are then entered into the machine learning application. Initially, the algorithm decides purely at random whether it recognizes the same animal in two images or whether these photos represent two different lions. It subsequently compares this decision with the correct solution and then repeats this process thousands of times with a myriad different images, each time increasing its experience and thus boosting its hit rate. Step by step, the algorithm thus establishes the categories that it uses to identify individual lions and grows more and more reliable over time.
So here we are lucky enough to just observe the data, but we can't really take useful information to improve conservation, for example, out of it yet, and this would be the dream for the future. That not only observing it and be amazed by it, but also take key information from it, learn from it, and reapply it to the ecosystem.
Yeah, the hope was, and I think it's working out, to give an emotional, to give this sense that this is just, we have one globe, one very, very, very beautiful, amazing globe, but it's only one.
I mean, I knew the footage because I've been working with it before, but it was really cool to see it synchronized by location and also by time. And if you sit in the pavilion, you can see the year pass around you.
I can now tell how some of the videos speak to each other. I can see really the relations between different locations that one maybe didn't draw before, and I really think it comes together in a way that is really wholesome, and it's very, very satisfying to see all the work come together. Yeah.
In addition to AI for particular species, this effort also involves cross-project algorithms designed to be applicable to a growing number of animal species. That sets the bar high for researchers, and interdisciplinary collaboration is usually required. In this context, the Triggered by Motion video installation functions as a networking forum, which aims to bring this process to a broader audience. After all, although the future of digital conservation looks promising, conservation projects only work if they enjoy support beyond expert circles.
Like, I feel humbled and very, very grateful, mainly to be allowed to be part of this amazing network and to be able to connect and reach out to researchers, scientists, citizen scientists, and NGOs all over the world, with this huge amount of dedication to preserve wildlife and biodiversity. I mean, it's really this positive energy that is coming from the people involved, and the love and admiration for this world and all these different species and life itself, that just makes me extremely happy. And in the same time, it breaks my heart to see how it's getting more and more damaged.
It was, it felt to me like almost a dream come true, because I wanted to go in February, but COVID, ditched that idea. But when we finally got to feeling comfortable with the way which COVID was working, and I felt like it's time to go, we are not going to stay for a long time, but it's time to go see that whole project. And boy, I was really excited to go.
Smile.
It was that was an amazing greeting. Out of all those people that were there, she knew who we were. And to come up and give us both a great big hug, as an introduction to this journey through Zurich that we were about ready to take, it was amazing. Going into that gigantic museum, that was one highlight of where we went, just exploring, and climbing way up there into that tower. I was just amazed by everything that I was looking at, especially the transportation system and the city itself. And then having dinner that evening down on River Lamont. The whole time that we were there and Katharina was taking us to these restaurants, that to me was really one of the highlights too, to be introduced to good food and good wine.
That's great.
So you would just warn me if I bump into something? Yeah. Okay. So welcome at Planet Digital. It's a collaboration of University of Zurich and Museum für Gestaltung, which is like the biggest design museum in Switzerland. And the aim is to bring research and design together in one big exhibition. And we created this exhibition with a total of 26 completely new projects, where researchers and designers and artists were working together on the overall topic of digitalization.
Well, when we first went into the museum itself, it was like exploring with my eyes. just looking at all of this stuff that had been put together to form this Planet Digital, and then the fact that all this was technological, oriented, and embedded in the middle of it is nature, of all things to bring into a technology exhibition. Well, when I walked in there, I was just amazed. I guess I was probably like a kid looking at all of this amazing stuff that was all around me, And then I finally saw our part of the exhibition. And of all things, there was Limos laying on that fallen tree, that giant eucalyptus tree, 5,800 some odd miles away from home, and it actually occurred to me, it was just a fantasy that flipped through my head, like, I wish Limos was here to see this. It was an honor. It was one of the big honors in my life. Okay, I've had 3 or 4 of those, and this is one of the tops. At first, it was like, this is almost impossible. But as I started looking around at some of the other projects, and then realizing too that we were being taken through the seasons, and how different each one of the installations was. The one I remember most was the woman who was doing crane research in the DMZ in Korea, and the problems that she faced by the 2 governments that are on either side of that DMZ. And so when we actually got there, I went to her site, and it was raining so hard that you couldn't see anything. That was during the winter, okay, but later on, as it went into the other seasons, then I saw what she had.
So I'll film you, and she's gonna film me.
And this should pick up both?
Yeah, so tell me about what it was like going in to the exhibit and seeing your work up on the screen.
I was surprised, honored. A whole lot of things were going through me at that time. So that, it was like, I don't know how to say this exactly, but it felt exquisite, superb to see the work that I had done 8,000 miles from here appear here in Switzerland, in Zurich. And so that's my take on it.
To see all the work of all of the other researchers globally, what was it like being among all of them?
Oh, wow. To be a part of a global event like that was just beyond my expectations or anything that I could possibly imagine. And so that's part of why I feel so honored to be here with Katharina and you. I think that in some ways technology can be good, like programs such as artificial intelligence can add to the whole of what we're doing in terms of research and discovery about these animals that we've rejected over hundreds and hundreds of years and never really understood. At the same time, I hope that it doesn't create separation between people and the environment and the wild. For instance, the supervising ranger out here suggested that I simply buy a bunch of Wi-Fi cameras so that I don't have to come out here and maintain these cameras all the time. And I wrote her back and I said, that's not what I do all the time. I said, I'm trying to also assess the health of the wildlife that are out here, and I can do that only when I look at their scat. And I'm not going to get scat on Wi-Fi.
I think there is a huge strength in what your whole group, and especially Bill, is doing here. Like, Bill is dedicating so much of his lifetime to very humbly take time, sit down, observe, take notes. What's the perspective of the gray fox? What's the interaction with other animals in this area? It can't be valued enough. Is this very strong dedication to observation of wildlife without invading it? I would hope that this could spread